In this video, I'm going to be showing you all there is to know about the tractors in Farming Simulator 25. Let's get into it. So if you're new to Farming Simulator series and Farming Simulator 25 in particular, you may be wondering what the tractors are, different types, what they do, what the differences are. So we're going to discuss the tractors in depth today. So let's jump into the vehicle menu and we'll go through the tractors. All right, so you want to come into the vehicle menu. Under the drivable section is where you're going to find all the tractors. Okay, so there's three categories. You've got small tractors, medium tractors, large tractors, and then your other drivables are trucks, cars and bikes, and miscellaneous. So we're going to leave those for today, and we're just going to focus on the tractors. All right, so your tractors are going to be your most used vehicle, more than likely, depending on what type of farming you're doing, because basically you need them for pretty much all sorts of field work. So it's cultivating, seeding, carting trailers, front loaders, different attachments, all that sort of stuff. If you're doing forestry, there's forestry specific tractors, which we'll get into. But for more the arable farming and general farm work, you'll probably find the tractors are going to be your most used item. Okay, so like I said before, we've got small, medium, and large, and they all range from price points, horsepowers, different uses. So let's get into the smalls. All right, so basically starting from the cheapest. So they're not sorted by price. I think what they're sorted by is horsepower, if I'm not mistaken. So when you jump into the menu, what you'll see is the first tractor. So that's going to be usually your most least powerful. Okay, and then they'll go up in power to the highest in that category. Okay, so in this case, this is the Deutz-Fahr 6C RV Shift. Okay, with a horsepower of 103 horsepower, and the horsepower rating on the Landini Rex 4 GT is 70 to 112. Okay. Now, while we're here, what we'll basically talk about is the bottom bar first. So it basically says tractors are required to pull trailers and tools. This tractor suits perfectly for grape and olive farming. So that's one specific tractor in this category. So if we look just above on the left-hand side, we've got the Landini Rex 4 GT, so the name of the tractor. We've got the little house symbol, which basically means how many you own. So currently we own 0. The key is how many of you've got leased. Okay. Next one along is our power, so the little engine with the lightning bolt. That tells you the power range. So the tractor comes with a 70 horsepower variant up to 112 horsepower. It's a manual transmission with 80 litres fuel tank. Does 40 kph top speed. So if you're in miles per hour, that'll be different. The weight of the vehicle, which is 2.9 tonne, and the number of the boxes, so the 9 boxes or 8 boxes there, signifies how many slots this takes. So your slot count, which is up near your balance, so currently we're showing 1,204 out of 3,500. Every bit of equipment you put on the farm takes a bit of slot count out of your game's memory. So if you're on PC, you'll have more. If you have PS5 console or Xbox, it'll be a bit less. Okay, so that's all uniform across all categories. Okay, so if we jump in here, we've got the Landini. So this is specific for grape and olive farming. Okay, because it has a narrow width. Okay, so getting between the grapevines. So this is what you'll find in the UI down the bottom. So this tractor suits perfectly for grape and olive farming. So that's essentially what you would use it for. Okay. Moving along, we've got the TK480 methane powered tractor as well. So this is also for grape and olive farming, just another variation. This one uses methane instead of petrol or diesel. Okay, so a different fuel source. The Rigitrack, which is this guy, so this is electric. Okay, and this guy is used for alpine mowing. Okay, I mean you can use it for any number of things. Zetor, I'm not going to go through everyone, but basically they all range in this category in particular. You've got the grape and olive farming, so this is another grape and olive. Basically telltale sign is how narrow it is, so you can see that there. Okay, and then obviously ranging up to our more powerful varieties. Okay, so let's go this guy, the 143 Deutz-Fahr, and you'll have different options. Okay, so in your configurations box on the right, if there's options available for different size engines, different size wheel brands, you can change them to what you like. Okay, different wheel setups, this is also quite common. So we've got wheel weights, we've got wide tires, we've got wide tires with wheel weights. So this is if you've got heavy implements or you're doing silage or something for that effect. And then you've got narrow tires for crop destruction. So you've got narrow tires for crop destruction purposes. Then you've also got the ability to put it on a front loader. Okay, so you can choose either from a quickie or a hayer or no. You can always change this later if you own it. All right, so if you purchase it outright, you're able to modify it after the fact. But if you lease it, the configuration you lease it in is the one that it stays in. So if we are choosing a front loader, if we choose a quickie front loader attachment, that means we need to use a quickie front loader. and vice versa with the higher. Okay, so you just got to be careful which way you go. And that's pretty much your options. So basically, based on your price point, what your horsepower needs are. So really, the main. So let's have a look at this Z-Tour actually, because we've got a couple of different engine options. So you can see currently 117 horsepower. If we scroll through to the different engine upgrades, you can see the horsepower goes up to 136. Okay, and it's got pretty much all the same options. Change your license plate, whatever you want to do. Okay, so just to recap, pretty much you've got your grape and olive farming tractors in here, and then you've got your standard small tractors that'll take a front loader. Generally all of these will take a front loader, and generally all of these have a front PTO. Okay, so a PTO is that yellow coupling in the front, so that's your power takeoff. So generally if you're running implements on the front that require a PTO, you'll have that there, whereas something like this guy, it does have a PTO. So I don't think the PTO really plays that big of a role. Like this guy doesn't have a PTO. Okay, so you may run into problems if you're trying to run a PTO-driven attachment on the front of a tractor that doesn't have a PTO. Okay, just something to consider. All right, let's move on to the medium tractor category. Okay, so medium tractors obviously bigger than small, smaller than large, and these guys are obviously middle of the range. Okay, so you're not going to find any grape and olive or specialty tractors in here. These are just like your general run-of-the-mill workhorse tractors that you'll probably utilize most on your farm. Okay, so they're obviously affordable, more so than the large tractors, and they're all pretty much the same in terms of functionality. It's just going to be the price point and the higher end horsepower. So once again, like the Deutz Fast Series TTV, that's going to get you up to 287 horsepower peak in this category. The McCormick X8 V8 VT drive will get you to 310. Okay, so obviously with the engine option upgrades, we can get up around that 300 horsepower bracket if needed. Okay, now a lot of these guys will have engine upgrades like I just mentioned. They'll have the wheel setups that you can change as well, so pretty much the same as before. So we've got wheel weights, we've got wide tires with weights, narrow tires for crop destruction, dual rear narrow twins, so narrow tires on the front as well, dual wheels on the rear, and probably dual wheels on the front. So depending on your traction needs, the weight of the implement you're pulling, okay, and obviously having a front weight might be necessary. Different attacher types for the front, so this has got a 3-point versus a front weight. Okay, so you can choose that specifically. So if you're doing a lot of ploughing, maybe if you're going to have heavy implements on the back, that's something to consider. And then obviously your front loader attachment as well. So pretty much, once again, the horsepower requirements are going to be the biggest potential purchase factor. The other thing to consider is the top speed. Okay, so a lot of these guys will do 40 kph, some will do 50. Okay, so obviously the speed improvement helps to get you from point A to point B quicker. So that's something to consider. No tractor in the game currently goes 60 except for this guy. Okay, so the Deutz Fast Series 7 TTV, and I'm pretty sure that is the same for the large tractor category as well. Okay, so based on the implements that you might, so let's have a look at an implement, for example. So say a plow. All right, so the smaller plows will take 85 horsepower to pull, okay, whereas up to the larger end you need 360. So 360 is the recommended minimum to efficiently use that tool at its desired working speed of 12 kph. So you may be able to use a smaller horsepower tractor to pull the implement, but it may go slower or may not go at all. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. It's always better to probably have more horsepower available than what you need, because as your farm grows and as your operation increases, the need for bigger equipment, more productivity is going to become evident. All right, so that's pretty much the medium tractor category. So there's not much else to talk about there. So let's move on to the large tractor category. Okay, so large tractor categories is where we kind of max out our horsepower. Okay, so we're obviously getting into pretty much standard setup. A lot of these guys can still have front loaders, I think. So there might be a couple of exceptions, but generally speaking, front loaders just start to disappear from this range. I think the 7R might still have one, so it's got a 3-point attacher, so maybe not. So obviously front loaders not as common on the larges, if at all. Okay, because these guys are designed for heavy carting of grain carts, trailers, pulling heavier implements, that sort of thing. Whereas the medium tractors are more utility, so front loader attachments, bale spike, pallet fork, all that sort of stuff. All right, so where these guys start to diverge is when you get into the tracked vehicles. So the 8RT, for example. So this is designed for straight line pulling power, okay? So you've got a couple of different engine setups, all the way up to 458 brake horsepower. Okay, so this is going to be for your pulling. This guy here, so this is like for your row crops, so different track setups. Okay, so obviously it doesn't really matter in game, but different parts of the world you need different row widths for the crop that you're growing. So if you want to simulate that in your gameplay, you can. Okay, or if you just want to drive a particular tractor because it's cool, you can basically do that. Okay, so we're pretty much, so there is more tractor vehicles to come. The Fendt Vario 1000 is a pretty good tractor overall, so you get up to 517 horsepower. It'll do 60 kph. It's pretty robust and able to do most jobs. All right, so when we're getting into the higher end of horsepower, we're getting into the articulated tractors. Okay, so we're talking about the 9R series, the 9RX, Xerion, and the Steiger. So the Fendt Vario 1100 MT is very similar to our previous John Deere we looked at. However, this guy will go up to 673 horsepower. So these guys are quite unique in their steering ability. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lease this and we'll demonstrate that quickly. So we got our articulated tractor there and our tracked vehicle here. So basically what these guys can do, zoom out a little bit, they can pretty much turn on a dime. So they've got a very tight turning radius. So that's one advantage, okay? But basically in real life, they're for, you've got a nice wide footprint, huge track to reduce your compaction, but it's basically just high horsepower, large implements, that sort of thing, okay? Your articulated tractors, so what I mean by articulated is they turn in the middle. So there's a steering hinge under this cover. So this guy, if we jump in, so this guy actually has four-wheel steer, which is unique again. So the John Deere's and the Case IH Steiger, they articulate in the middle, okay? So they have slightly different handling characteristics, so you can see that there. Okay, so let's go back into the large vehicles. So the 9R series, this one articulates in the middle, so it doesn't have front and rear steering per se. It steers by turning in the middle. So let's, I'm not going to buy that guy. 9RX, pretty much the same. We can max this guy out to 691 horsepower. And the Case Quadtrac, which I think is the highest horsepower in the game at the moment, 778. So make sure we just grab the, so it comes standard at 778, okay? So we'll go standard crawler tracks. Let's lease that. And you can see steering is from the middle of the vehicle. So it just takes a little bit of getting used to. But obviously the benefit of this guy is, you know, you're going to be able to tow the most powerful attachments. And when I say the most powerful, the ones that require the most power. So something like a cultivator. So let's find some of these big guys, like the Summers Super Chisel cultivator requires 630 horsepower to pull it through the ground. What have I got? Disc harrows, they're not too bad. 580 subsoilers, usually not too bad. But basically, like going up hills, ploughing, carrying grain carts and auger wagons. So like these guys here. So like, you know, your beet cart, for example, when that's fully loaded, it's going to be quite heavy. Your walkabout mother bin. So when that's fully loaded, not that it's designed to be moved in real life, but you kind of get the idea. That's where the higher horsepower comes in handy. Yeah, your Elmer's Hallmaster, perfect tractor for this job, okay? Even though it says it only requires 270 horsepower to run, 400 horsepower maximum, the more horsepower you've got, the better things will be, depending on the conditions. So you can sort of see how that handles. Pretty smooth, cool tractor to drive, all that sort of stuff. All right, let's jump back into the menu quickly. So that's pretty much an overview of the larger tractors. A couple little differences there, but basically higher horsepower, higher price point, that's generally what you're paying for in the larger tractor varieties. So there you have it, guys. Brief little intro into the tractors and what they do, the price points, etc. for Farming Simulator 25. So if you like this video, leave a like on it. If you've got any questions about anything we've talked about today, leave them down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.